All right. Good evening, everyone. Once again, we are here, Hebrew News Network, to go over some things pertaining to the Word of God, prophecy, and discerning things biblically. Uh, I am Brother Nate. My son also, Brother Nate also. Good evening to those in the chat, Sister Cheryl, Brother Kevin. Welcome once again. Glad you all able to tune in. So we have a pretty interesting show this evening, and hopefully we can, get through it pretty, at a reasonable time. But for the most part, today we just want to look at. We just have a few articles pertaining to, Iran. Two articles on that, which is not really much, and then the last one we'll look at is pertaining to the Pope, who declined the invitation to join the Board of Peace. And from there, we're going to go and look at snippets of the video between Tucker Carlson and Mike Huckabee. And we're going to also, of course, bring out the Word of God to show some inconsistencies and things that are incorrect pertaining to who the people of God really are. As you can see from the topic this evening, it says discerning prophecy. The land of Israel belongs to which bloodline? And we think that's very important, considering that this is the last week before Black History Month ends. I just find it amazing that we ended on talking about who the land belongs to. It was not my intentions nor Nate's intentions, I believe, to end it this way. However, praying to the Lord and asking him to give us things to break down and go over when we do these episodes, the Lord definitely came through. Peace to you, Debbie. So the Lord definitely came through and answered those prayers because, like I say, this is something that's very important. And it's also going to become an issue in the world today to continue to see the Israelites wake up and the veil being removed from the children of Israel first and foremost. So as we continue to wake up, continue to turn back to God, we're gonna see that eventually it's gonna become a problem, because it's been a long time that people have been pushing a lie about who's God's chosen people. So it was just a matter of time where the Lord was gonna do his thing and start waking us up. So in that interview, what we're gonna look at this evening, we'll see that you kind of see that the lie it can't go on too much longer, especially with what's happening with the children of Israel starting to wake up. So Nate, do you have anything before we get started, son?
Not off the top.
All right. What's up, Jigster? How you doing? I think that's Jigster from Oakland, right? Oakland, California, I believe. We met. If this is the right one, it looked like it might look like it from the thumbnail. But we met out in Oakland, if that's him, last summer. And Lord willing, we get back out there to see you guys again soon. So we're gonna pull over to our first one. Okay, yes, sir. Thanks for tuning in, brother. So we're gonna look at the first one. U.S. military preparing for a military strike on Iran. So let's look at that real quick. All right, start this over. Y'all got to excuse these commercials if they happen to pop up. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and get started.
Americans won't be the only ones watching tonight's speech. The world will be following the State of the Union. Americans won't be the only ones watching tonight's speech. The world will be following the State of the Union address closely, particularly to see what the president says about Iran. For more, let's bring in CBS News senior national security correspondent Charlie D'Agata, who is in Tel Aviv, Israel. So U.S. military personnel are largely in place for this potential military operation. But Charlie, how long can this buildup be sustainable?
Lindsay, that is a very key question, because when you talk about the largest buildup that this region has seen, certainly in terms of air power, we're talking about since 2003, the invasion of Iraq, and there is a lot of it. And then the naval power. And yes, that is not sustainable for an indefinite amount of time. And the reason being, when you move aircraft into position, F-18s, F-35s, F-22 fighter jets, stealth fighter jets, there are logistics around that. They have to be fueled up and they have to be ready to go. They have to have the munitions in place. And it's all down to what military readiness or combat readiness is how the military terms that. So they are in that position, essentially like a sprinter on the starting blocks. And now we've got two aircraft carriers that are now in place, the USS Gerald R. Ford, which we believe to be off the coast of the Mediterranean, not far from here. Eventually, in the next few days, the USS Abraham Lincoln, again with the F-35s and the F-18 fighter jets. All of these aircraft and personnel and naval assets in place if, and this is a big if, by the way, if called upon to attack Iran. And if that happens, to provide protection, force protection for the tens of thousands of U.S. troops in this region. And where I'm standing, Israel itself, which is likely to come under attack from a retaliation from Iran, again, if this is to take place.
So based on what you're hearing from sources, your own reading of the tea leaves, is the president considering a targeted strike or a larger, longer-term operation if he acts?
Lindsay, honestly, all of the above. And it's not me being coy. Not only myself, other individuals who are in touch with our contacts at the Pentagon and in the region, CENTCOM, Central Command, as we call it. It's down to the president, it's down to the White House, it's down to a certain group of individuals, and they will have a whole menu, an a la carte menu of either limited strikes, possibly hitting the regime, possibly hitting Iranian ballistic missile sites, which is certainly what the Israelis want to see. And the Israelis might be in league with that particular strike package, or it might be a 1-2 punch where the United States is hitting regime targets and the Israelis are going after ballistic missiles because that's the priority. We've spoken to intelligence officials here who say that is an option too. So you're looking at the whole kind of gamut. And President Trump has said this himself. He's considering limited strikes, but they're also preparing for what could be a prolonged, sustained campaign, not just against Iran, but the way Iran retaliates, because we have it on pretty good authority that Iran has possibly 1,800 missiles, mid to long range missiles that can hit right here where we're standing. We were there this afternoon, just a couple of blocks away, where an Iranian missile during the 12-day war last year in June hit that area, capable of hitting this, getting past that Iron Dome. And if it can reach here, it can reach U.S. forces too.
Charlie Daggett at this late hour in Tel Aviv. Thank you. And stay with CBS.
All right. So what do you guys think about that? Like, I think me personally, I just feel like, we just, I think like every week we come and have to discuss, what I'm saying, or at least point out some of the things that are going on. But if you don't mind, just leave your answer in the chat. How do you guys feel about this? Is it in your eyes provocation? Or is it just simply, in the overall the big picture, just a part of what, the Lord has determined pertaining to prophecy? So now we're going to go look at this right here. And like I said, we'll try to move through these because the last video is what we want to spend time on. I don't know if you guys happen to see that particular video. So we're going to go through certain sections of it this evening. And then when you guys get a chance, I would definitely advise to go back and watch the whole thing. Let's see here. All right. So this right here is pertaining to Trump. Let me see here. Okay. So he had something else pertaining to what he wanted to. I want to see about the 10 days that they said. Give me 1 second here. I had it up over here on my screen. Just want to get Trump's get his what he says about it himself. Get his point of view or his plan pertaining to how he wants to address it as far as Rand is concerned. So let's just hear it out of his mouth. And just so you know, Nate, what do you think about that? The repercussions of America going to war with Iran.
As far as the video we just watched?
Yeah, well, yeah, right. Tension definitely. Just in general, just like America striking Iran. Because did you hear what he said? It wouldn't be like they're open to if it's a short war, a long war, everything is on the table.
Yeah, I think at this point it just looks like it's set in stone. I don't think there's any going back from here. I think one way or the other, they're gonna get what they want, which is to, ultimately go to war with Iran.
Well, it's crazy you say that because it seems like that's what they want.
Yeah, as I said, it seems like it's set in stone. Like I don't think there's any going back from here. I know last week we talked about peace talks, but we also saw in that article that it's just kind of a ploy or an attempt to save face while they get prepared for what's really happening. And I think that's what we're seeing is what they really had in store, what they really wanted, all along.
Yeah, what they want to do in the first place. Yeah. Because I mean, you think about it, they if you didn't want to go to war, why would you send all that all the how we saw the planes with the soldiers and stuff flying over to the Middle East and the ships and stuff, that costs money. You know what I'm saying? So I mean, I don't think it's just like it's like they when you show up when you want to fight, you're gonna show up ready, in other words. So all the things that they're doing, it's like they pulling everything over there, but yet and still they making it seem like they want to, talk it out and work some things out. But their actions are showing something completely different, though. Something completely different. But let's check this one out right here. Let's check out this video here.
Iran is a hotspot right now, and they're meeting and they have a good relationship with the representatives of Iran, and good talks are being had. It's proven to be over the years not easy to make a meaningful deal with Iran. We have to make a meaningful deal, otherwise bad things happen. But we have to make a meaningful deal. Now we may have to take it a step further, or we may not. Maybe we're going to make a deal. You're going to be finding out over the next probably 10 days. Iran is a hotspot right now, and they're meeting and they have a good relationship with the representatives of Iran. And
so y'all heard that, right?
Can you play that one more time?
Yeah. Okay, hold on one second.
Good talks are being had. Iran is.
Hold on, let me start it over.
I actually don't know how.
Iran is a hotspot right now, and they're meeting and they have a good relationship with the representatives of Iran. And, good talks are being had. It's proven to be over the years not easy to make a meaningful deal with Iran. We have to make a meaningful deal, otherwise bad things happen. But we have to make a meaningful deal. Now we may have to take it a step further, or we may not. Maybe we're going to make a deal. You're going to be finding out over the next probably 10 days. Iran is.
You heard that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
when was that?
That was last week. It was like I think the week before last. You know what I'm saying? So we seeing, you know what I'm saying? But Iran is not trying to do anything. Iran trying to keep the peace, man. So but it's
exist.
Yeah, say it again.
I said just trying to exist, it seems like.
Yeah, they're trying to exist, man. It's that brother of ours, Esau. He always got to get in something, man. Always got to get in something. But we're gonna read it. We're gonna look at him this evening. So let's see what Iran has to say about this. This is about a month ago, but we definitely wanted to show this one here. Iran isn't somebody that's just gonna lay down, man. I mean, eventually this is gonna get out of control. But let's see what it says.
We are following some breaking news out of Iran after Iran.
All right,
We
there we
are
go.
following some breaking news out of Iran after Iran threatens President Trump. Take a look at this social media post right now, sharing more details of this threat. This is from the New York Post saying Iran issues a sickening assassination threat against Trump. Quote, this time it will not miss the target. And they also shared a photo of one of the assassination attempts against President Trump. All of this coming as protests continue to escalate in Iran. These are some file video of some of these protests in which reportedly hundreds, if not thousands of people have been killed. Meantime, Iran's judiciary head has signaled earlier today there would be fast trials and executions ahead for suspects detained in these nationwide protests, despite warnings from President Trump that the U.S. may take military action over the killing of peaceful demonstrators. Those
All right. So I wanted you all to see that just to kind of point out how Iran is, peace to you, my brother. But, Iran is not like, just some Rudy Poot country, man, that they can just go over there and bully around. We touched on it about a month or so ago, looking at the Lord's army pertaining to BRICS, and Iran is, definitely allies with Russia and China, of course. So just something for us to keep an eye out on. All right, so let's move on. Anything on that, Nate?
Not on that one.
All right. All right, so the next thing we have right here before we get to the video that we want to discuss today, just looking at here, the Pope's decision on not joining Trump's board of peace. And I think that's kind of funny, just the simple fact that, man, he's the king of the world. How you inviting him to join something? You know what I'm saying? Like, at the end of the day, he going everything alone. He is, like they say, he gonna go it alone. Like, you know what I'm saying? So, but let's just read what was his reasoning. We're gonna read down to a certain spot, which will take us into our next segment, which we want to discuss in depth this evening. So Nate, if you don't mind, start with the title, and then we'll come on down to we'll stop at this part right here.
Pope Leo rejects Trump invitation to join Gaza Board of Peace. The Vatican flatly rejected a U.S. invitation to join the Trump-led Board of Peace for Gaza. The Latin Patriarch of Jerusalem previously described the project as a colonialist operation focused on others deciding for the Palestinians. Pope, what is that?
I think Pope Leo the 14th, if I'm not mistaken.
Pope Leo XIV, the U.S.-born pontiff, has formally declined U.S. President Trump's invitation for the Vatican to join his so-called peace board for Gaza. According to Trump, the board, which he will head, will oversee Gaza's governance and reconstruction. Trump has said that the board may later address the other global conflicts under his leadership. But in delivering the Pope's firm no, Vatican Secretary of State Cardinal Pietro Parolin insisted that at the international level, it should above all be the UN that manages these crisis situations, not a U.S.-led board.
So Nate, just hold on one second right there. So remember a few weeks ago we talked about the Board of Peace, right? And I think I was mentioning something about how it'll probably expand outside of Gaza. You know what I'm saying? Because it's mainly set up and based on Gaza, trying to get some type of, reconstruction going on. And then I assuming, you have to pay the $1 billion to sit on the Board of Peace and stuff like that. And it's mainly being sold as, something that they're doing for Gaza, right? But if you pay attention to the article, it said also, but in delivering the Pope's firm no, Vatican Secretary of State Cardinal Pietro Parolin, insisted that at the international level, well, that's the wrong one. No, right here. According to Trump, the board which he will lead will oversee Gaza's governance and reconstruction. Trump has said that the board may later address other global conflicts under his leadership. So we got a board of peace that'll possibly be used to, govern other worldwide conflicts. Yeah, that don't sound right. It just sounds kind of fishy. Not saying anything may come of that, but I'm just, all these guys coming together from different countries coming together for the board of peace, and they get to govern the world. Yeah. But once again, the Pope said no. I understand why. Like I said, like the Bible lets you know he the king of the world. And they feel, even with the Roman Catholic Church is considered the mother church. And they do not like to be, from my understanding, they don't like to be considered the sister church. Like you have all these other churches under the Roman Catholicism, like your Baptist, your Pentecostal, Presbyterian, Episcopalian, all that Protestant. These are offshoots of Rome, but Rome is considered the mother church, not a sister church. You know what I'm saying? So with that mentality, I can understand why the Pope won't join. Nah, he not gonna be subject to what they got going on, because at the end of the day, he gonna run it all, for a set time. All right, we're right here, Nate.
Yes.
Okay.
Responding to the Pope's decision, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt called the decision deeply unfortunate. In spite of the fact that not a single Palestinian has been invited to serve on the board, Leavitt said, I don't think that peace should be partisan or political or controversial. Earlier this month, Latin Patriarch of Jerusalem Cardinal Pier Battista Pizzaballa was asked what he thought of Trump's board. He said, I think it is a colonialist operation, others deciding for the Palestinians. Noting that Trump has said that permanent membership on the board carries a $1 billion price tag. Pizzaballa said, I've never had $1 billion, but above all, this is not the church's task. It is the sacraments, the dignity of the person.
Okay. And you can read either right here. Well, you can read this right here, because this right here is in this statement right here.
The Pope's rejection of the proposed council signals.
You can start right here.
Oh, okay.
You can start. Yeah.
Asked by Mondoweiss to comment, Rifat Cassis, general coordinator of Kairos Palestine, the broadest ecumenical movement of Palestinian Christians, echoed Pizzaballa's charge. Cassis said, the Pope's rejection of the proposed council signals a clear principle. Neither global powers nor global foreign institutions can claim to build peace while silencing the Palestinian whose land and future are at stake. Okay.
And that right there is good on that. I wanted to end that right there. And just so you know, like I said, he has rejected, joining the board of peace, the Pope has. And also he said something very, very key right here. He said that it says that, where is it at? It says something about that's not the role of the church. Where's that, up here?
Right above that.
Oh, right above it. Let's see. Even more? Hold on.
I don't think.
How did it get away? Okay. I've never had $1 billion, but above all, this is not the church's task, and it's not, like you said, it's the sacraments, the dignity of the person. So it's something that they come up with. But at the end of the day, like I said, the Pope is actually going to, he gonna run it all. He ain't gonna regard the God of his fathers. He ain't gonna do none of that. He gonna be in straight power. He gonna take over. The Lord gonna allow it for 3.5 years. Well, so that's it on that. But I wanted to point out something right here. So it says, neither global powers nor global foreign institutions can claim to build peace while silencing the Palestinians whose land and future are at stake, right? So thought that was important, because if you see what the title of tonight's segment is, the land of Israel belongs to which bloodline? So now, like they said, they don't really want nobody speaking for Palestine, and like we saw at the end of the article that they said belongs to the Palestinians' land is at stake, right? So that would be Gaza, and that's all that is tied in together, from Gaza to Israel. It's a Gaza Strip, I think, in Israel, if I'm not mistaken. And this is what is going on over there. You have Palestinians and you have Esau that are fighting over the land. And at the end of the day, the land belongs to us. So what we're gonna do now, we just gonna go through some of these segments in this video between Mike Huckabee and he was interviewed by Tucker Carlson, and it was a great interview. I mean, it was a bunch of hogwash, but I'm just saying the way he interviewed him, he kind of put his foot on his neck, you know what I'm saying, so he couldn't run, you know what I'm saying. So I don't know if that was playing behind the scenes or what, to make it seem like Tucker Carlson really cares, or if those questions were legitimate. But looking at these questions, we do have the answers according to the Word of God. But we just want to point out some things that didn't make sense, some things that they said, and we're going to look at the Bible and line up what the Bible has to say about it. So let's see here. Nate, you have that text I sent you?
Yes.
What was the first minute marker?
What was what?
The first minute marker for this particular video. Tucker confronts Mike Huckabee on America's toxic relationship with Israel. And then right below that, it should be a time.
49 minutes.
49? Okay. All right, 49-minute mark. All right, so let's go look at that. And I think, can you read what it says next to that 49-minute mark?
Where does it come from that they deserve to be there? All these different laws were written to place them there.
Okay, so just to kind of give you guys an idea what we mean by that. So in the interview, you'll hear that Mike Huckabee is mainly he's in favor of the Jews, the so-called Jews, being in the land, right? And Tucker Carlson is just mainly pressing him on, asking how do they get a right to be there? You know what I'm saying? And also Huckabee is going to go into Huckabee is going to he's going to go into explaining how they got there. Now, most people miss it, you know what I'm saying? Like for example, if you're just a regular Sunday Christian, you're gonna miss what Huckabee is saying. Huckabee, I think him being a Christian, I don't even think he knows what he's saying, because like in class, we went over several times about how these so-called Jews have been brought to their border. You know what I'm saying? Like where they live today, Huckabee is actually going to, talk about how they got there. You know what I'm saying? But in his mind, that validates them being God's chosen people. But we're going to show, according to the word, that that's not the case. All right, but we're going to start. And it is, let me see here, going to share this right quick. All right, so this particular video, and like I said, when you get a chance, definitely go watch it, man. And it's a very, very interesting video. I think I watched like an hour and 50 minutes last night. I didn't get to see the rest of it, but it's definitely good. All right, so what is this about? Okay, might have to try it again, y'all. I think my internet had froze up on me. Okay. All right, so you guys can see it, right? All right, here we go.
In questions about what all of those terms mean. Yeah. But conceptually, I wish Israel no harm. I don't want to see them.
You want them to have a place where they can live? with safety and
let
security?
me so I saw this recently in an extremely telling exchange between the lieutenant governor of Texas, who I know and I've always liked, and a woman I don't know, never met, who's on the Religious Liberty Commission or something. And she said, I'm a Catholic, but I'm not a Zionist. And they have this ferocious exchange. And he kept saying, and everyone on the panel seemed to keep saying, you have to believe in Israel's right to exist. I've never kind of questioned, just for the record, but it did raise two questions I think are really important, and I hope you'll answer them. One is, where does that right come from?
I would say it comes from, essentially, you could say it comes from the Bible. I would say that it does. But it comes also from a long iteration of historical precedents going to the Balfour Declaration of 1917. It comes from the League of Nations 1927. It comes from the United Nations 1947,
right?
The Declaration of Independence of the Israel State in May of 1948. They were.
All right, so this is why we didn't have too many articles to go over tonight, because I wanted to kind of spend time and kind of touch on these points. So we'll probably stop the video throughout just to kind of highlight some things. So if you notice what he's letting us know how Israel got access to the land. You know, the Balfour Declaration, the British Mandate of 1948, all these different laws were put in place to take Esau, the so-called Jews today, and put them in the land. And, you know, it was done outside of how God said it's going to be done. When the Lord get back, He going to gather the true Israelites from all over the world and put us back in the land. And that's when we're going to have peace on earth. What happened is he's letting you know all the different factions that had something to do with putting them back in the land. See, God, when you read the Bible and get understanding on the word, you're going to see that God is the one that's going to put the people back. So if God is not here, not only is He going to put them back, but He going to be dwelling on this earth when the real people are put back. So if they got there any other type of way outside of God doing it, those aren't the right people. All right. So I just want to point that out. Like I said, he doesn't even know what he's saying. He doesn't know that he's telling people that, you know, they got there by this, by that. This law was put together. And you go and look at those Balfour Declaration, British Mandate of 1948. You will see these things are what you know, mainly got the ball rolling to bring the Jews, the so-called Jews from all these different countries around the world and put them inside the land.
Immediately attacked. They won the war. They were attacked again in 1956. They won the war. They were attacked again in 1967 by 5 countries. They won the war. They were attacked again in 1973 in the Yom Kippur War. They won the war. The point is, does Israel have a right to exist? They also had wars in 1982 in Lebanon. They've had the intifadas, 2 of those. They've had
Lebanon again in 06. I was there. No, I'm very familiar with the modern history of the state.
Okay.
Pretty familiar, I think. And
but a Zionist simply means somebody who believes that Israel has a right to exist. Now, the question is, do you believe Israel has a right to exist?
I guess. I mean, I want Israel to exist. Well, no, but I want to know what that means. So, like, do other countries have a right to exist?
Well, they do exist.
Do they have a right to exist? You keep saying Israel has a right to exist. And I want to know what other countries have.
Okay, so that's what I want to point out right there. And like I said, go back and watch it. You know, pretty good interview. But it's just certain things that we wanted to point out this evening. So the next part we're going to look at.
This records conversations better than taking notes ever could. This is Pocket, and AI knows. Get
rid of this dude. All right, so the next thing we're going to look at here is what does it say under the 106 mark, Nate? Wait a mine to come up.
Who are Abraham's descendants? Jews were not chased out over the world. And B, how do we know?
Say that last part again.
A is Jews were not chased out over the world, all over the world, and B is how do we know they are?
Okay,
Abraham.
all right. Okay, cool. All right, so that's what this here is going to be referring to here. Who are Abraham's descendants? And the Jews were not chased out all over the world, because that's what Mike Huckabee is gonna say. You know, he gonna look. You know, he gonna talk and stuff like that, and say things about who Abraham descendants, and then he's gonna make it seem like, you know, they were chased out all over the world. The Jews were not chased out all over the world, y'all. What happened to the Jews? Were they chased out?
They were shipped
Like,
out.
just think about it. Say it again.
You talking about the real Jews? What happened to the real Jews?
Yes. Right. What happened to the real Jews?
It was shipped out.
They were shipped out. They were scattered. They were not chased out. No, we got plucked up, put on ships, and scattered throughout the whole world. So notice what they're going to say. So we're going to pick this up at the 106, 40-minute mark. And let's see. Let me just kind of fast forward it just a little bit. All right, we'll go right at 1630. Okay.
The question was the borders. I can't get an answer.
Yeah.
Those borders are. So I'm going to give up. But the second question is every bit as pressing, which is who are the people? Who are the all the way up to Iraq? Would that be legitimate in your view?
I don't think in this particular day and time they're asking for it.
Would it be legitimate?
I'm not sure that it would be.
Why? Because you just said that God
because
gave it
I
to
think
them.
that there is an understanding that the people of Israel today, now, if they end up getting attacked by all these places and they win that war and they take that land, then okay, that's a whole nother discussion. But you and I started out we started talking about something simple, Christian Zionism.
But it turns out it's not simple because the core of Christian Zionism, you said, and I'm quoting you, is the understanding, the belief, the theological understanding that Jews have a moral and legal, we went through the legal,
biblical,
moral deriving from the biblical, from the promises in our Bible, which we share with the Jewish people, the first part of it, the Old Testament, that it derives from God's promise to the Jews. And so I have two questions. What are the borders of that? And who are those people in 2026? And you're not the first person I've asked, but you're the most reasonable, most gentle, most theologically informed person. So I'm really hoping for an answer.
Yeah.
The first question was the borders. I can't get an answer. Yeah. Those borders are. So I'm going to give up. But the second question is every bit as pressing, which is who are the people? Who are the modern? Yes. Who are the descendants? So we know, and I believe, and I agree with you as a Christian, that God promised this land from modern day Iraq to modern day Egypt to this people, the Jews, to Abram's, actually not to Abram's descendants, as it says in Genesis 15. Who are his descendants now, and how do we know who they are?
I think they're the Jews, and we know who they are because they've always been a Jewish people. There has been an unbroken line of Jewish people, and they've lived in this land for 3,800 years. Sometimes not very many of them because they were
You're muted.
Okay, hold on one second. All right, there we go. Sorry about that. So they asked the question about how did they get there. We got the answer on how they got there. We're going to show you according to the Bible. So if you can, we're going to go to the book of Obadiah. And I think it's, let me see here. Pull up my Bible first. That's why I say it's perfect that, this interview came out right before, Black History Month ended. way to top it off, even though we don't, ascribe to that. But just thought that was amazing how the month's about to go out, because we can actually show the real history. All right, so Obadiah 1, and let's pick this up at verse 6. If you don't mind, Nate, could you read that for me, please?
How are the things of Esau searched out? How are his hidden things sought up? All the men of thy confederacy have brought thee even to the border.
Okay,
the men
so
that were at.
Notice what he says here, right? He said, how are the things of Esau searched out? And how are his hidden things sought up? Because, for the most part, the world doesn't know who Esau is, right? Once our forefathers got scattered in the worldwide captivity, during the Roman persecution, 70 AD, and further on down the line around 133 AD, which was our last time. For the most part, everybody had been carted off into captivity at this time. Esau, living in the southern part of, living south of Judah, you know, all they did was move right up into the land, drop the name Esau, and pick up Judah, because Judah, tribe of Judah, was right next to the land of Edom, which is what the Lord gave to Esau. So they pull up in there, and mainly what we have, they pull up in the land, and you also have the men of their confederacy. Like, you got people like these so-called Christians. You got people like we saw the different laws, the different mandates, the British mandate, Balfour Declaration, and stuff like that. All these different things were put together to get Israel, these Israelis, to put them where they are today. That's how they got to their border. And they're not the real people. You know, the real people, according to the Bible, you know, we'll see the signs that's going to sit on them pretty heavy, where it won't be no mistaking who it is at all. So let's see here. Let's see here. We're gonna finish that, and then I'll get off into a little bit more. So let's just continue on right quick. We got like 2 more minutes on this
Chased
segment.
out all over the world. They were hunted down. They were almost annihilated during the Holocaust.
Let me take that back.
Imagine being able to build an app with your name on it just by...
Oh, shut up. All right.
Is the understanding, the belief, the theological understanding.
To this day, Tucker, they represent, you know how many Jews there are in the whole world?
Please,
No,
I understand. Look, first of all, the greatest genocide of Jews no one ever mentions was by the Romans.
No, he said something. I got to play it. He said something.
But it's pressing, which is, who are the people?
Okay.
Who are the modern, yes, who are the descendants? So we know, and I believe, and I agree with you as a Christian, that God promised this land from modern day Iraq to modern day Egypt to this people, the Jews, to Abram's, actually not to Abram's descendants, as it says in Genesis 15. Who are his descendants now, and how do we know who they are?
I think they're the Jews, and we know who they are because they've always been a Jewish people. There has been an unbroken line of Jewish people, and they've lived in this land for 3,800 years. Sometimes not very many of them, because they were chased out all over the world. They were hunted down. They were almost annihilated during the Holocaust. They came back. To this day, Tucker, they represent, you know how many Jews there are in the whole world?
Please,
No,
I understand. First of all, the greatest genocide of Jews no one ever mentions was by the Romans, where they were literally banned from Jerusalem for 500 years.
Yeah, of course.
And it's all awful. And I'm opposed to all of that. I'm opposed to mass killing of anybody, period. I'm opposed to
hear you say that.
I mean it.
Yeah.
And I hope
I
we can
believe
agree
that.
on that.
I believe that.
My question is, and it's not a bumper sticker answer, it's a sincere answer, how do we know? Because what you're saying is that certain people have a title to a highly contested region. They own it in some deep sense. So I think it's fair to ask, who are they and how do we know? So the current prime minister's ancestors weren't from here within recorded history. He has no deed. Bibi Netanyahu, on one side, his family's from Poland. They're from Eastern Europe. So how do we know that he has a connection to the people who God promised the land to, Abram's descendants? How do we know that?
Well, if you take...
You muted.
He doesn't have any connection. That's the thing. He doesn't have any connection. You know what I'm saying? But when you lie so much, you have to, you got to do like Mike Huckabee. You got to try to make all these different things make sense for it to become true, you know. But he's asking him, how does Bibi Netanyahu, the prime minister of Israel, how does he have connection to the land? And Mike Huckabee, he's not going to be able to answer it. Like, you'll see, he's all over the place.
Take the genealogies that come not only from the Old, but the New Testament, you see that there is a historical connection through the entirety of the Old and the New Testament that details the Jewish connection to this land.
Does that include Bibi's family? How do we know that if his family
if they were
here,
scattered?
But how do we know it's the same people? Why is that crazy? If you say to me,
if they speak the same language, if they worship the same God, if they follow the same Bible, if they follow the same cultures and traditions, And they always pray next year in Jerusalem, and they pray for the peace of Jerusalem, and they pray facing toward Jerusalem. Does that not give you a little bit of a clue as to who they are?
Let's go through the.
Wait a minute. Who that sound like? Don't that sound like us? We do all that, don't we, Nate?
Mm-hmm.
They don't, first and foremost, y'all, they don't believe in the whole Bible. But we do all that. Now they got this so-called pilgrimage coming up, next year for Passover. But man, like we the ones that do all that. We do it without a doubt. But ain't nobody paying us no attention. But it's gonna change soon.
Those things, because I would like to have a rational. This is a conversation I've wanted. Bless you. Thank you for doing this. Let's just go through those things.
Okay.
So one of the things I admire most about Israel is they resurrected a dead language in 1948.
Which is, a bunch of hogwash, because Hebrew that they speak nowadays, that's considered Yiddish, which is the ghetto language. It's not really Hebrew. And we are the ones that spoke that, all right? So just to answer a few questions before we go forward. Let's see here. Let's see. So he said, how do we know, right? Let's go look at some. Let's go look at Deuteronomy. No, we're not gonna do that right now. We're gonna stick to the order. We're gonna fast forward a little bit more to another segment, and then once we get further down, we'll address it. All right. So this right here, what is this one based on, Nate? What does that say on your notes?
Eastern Europeans
If
were
you think
brought
being
to the
available
border.
all the time helps your career, you're wrong.
An hour and
12. That's what it said. Eastern Europeans brought to the border?
Yeah, hour and
Okay.
12.
All right, cool. Okay, cool. All right, so this right here is where Mike Huckabee is actually going to say that the Eastern Europeans were brought to the border pertaining to Israel. That's how they got there. Eastern Europeans. All right.
Here, in a lot of cases, atheists, and who have this identification have a deed to a huge chunk of land on the Mediterranean. Okay, so there's, it's a right. You keep telling me it's a right, and so it's totally fair to say if you come to my house and say I've got the title to your house, I get to ask, may I see it? Where'd you get it? And that's exactly what happened here. People from Europe, Eastern Europe, came here, in a lot of cases atheists, and kicked out a lot of people who lived here.
Land.
Well, but
they did not just throw people out.
They bought a lot of land. There's no question about that.
They did buy a lot of land.
But they also, in 1948, kicked out a lot of people.
In the war.
Oh, it was a war. I agree.
Yeah.
I'm not want to relitigate the history. I'm just saying it's a fact.
Okay.
Including a lot of Christians. A lot of Christians wound up fleeing, and they lost their homes, and they've never been allowed back. And all of this was justified on the basis of this identity that is the ticket to the right that you keep referring to. So my question is very simple. I'm going to wait patiently for an answer. Does this right derive from religious affiliation or from genetics?
And I would say it's both. But I would also say that when you said the Christians were kicked out, Tucker, Christianity is growing in Israel.
Still muted.
My bad, y'all. But so I muted that because it was a great question, and Mike Huckabee, he keeps trying to jump around the answer. You know what I'm saying? How is what he's asking is what Tucker Carlson is asking. How is it determined that these are the people that's supposed to be in the land? So once you go back and see the interview, you're gonna see that that Mike Huckabee, it's like he gonna take the descendants of Abraham, right? Because the promise was given to Abraham and his seed, right? And part of that was the land. So Mike Huckabee gonna narrow it down to the point as he's getting, kind of hit with these questions. He gonna kind of bring it to it just being a religion. Some people that have converted, if you've done that, you're fine. We're gonna see that later on. But we're going to move a little bit further onto this. Now, I hope you guys caught what he said. He said Europeans were brought to Israel. Now, one thing that I do want to point out is, so in the book of Obadiah, at the end of Obadiah 1 and verse, read 20 and 21 for me, Nate. Obadiah 1, 20 and 21. And let's just see something, guys.
In the captivity of this host of the children of Israel shall possess that of the Canaanites, even unto Zarephath. In the captivity of Jerusalem, which is in Sepharad, shall possess the cities of the south. And Savior shall come up on Mount Zion to judge the Mount of Esau. And the kingdom shall be the Lord's.
Okay, so I wanted to point out here because so you do have like we saw earlier, all the men of that confederacy have bought thee even to the border. So we're talking about Esau here. So, and I know some people say, well, you know, you got Ashkenazi, you got Sephardic Jews in the land and stuff like that. And some people even say, well, you know, those people in the land today, that's not even Esau. They say, well, it's Gentiles that are in the land. Well, just understand, based on what we just read, Esau has to be in the land when the Lord returns. You know what I'm saying? And this is why it's saying at the end of Obadiah 1 and 21, it said, and saviors shall come up on Mount Zion. Because it ain't going to be just the Lord himself operating in that, position as savior. You're going to have people that make the first resurrection. And at that time, Lord willing, we're going to be changed at the second coming of the Lord. Take on those glorified bodies. And guess what? We're going to be kings and priests of God as well, being able to work with him and fight with him and stuff like that. It tell you that in Psalms 148, I believe, 148, 149. You know, how we going to have a two-edged sword in our hand as well. You know what I'm saying? Might be in our hand or in our mouth, one of those. But we going to have those capabilities just like the Lord, but we going to be working with him and taking down the world. So when it says, and Savior is going to come up on Mount Zion, that means Savior is going to come into the land when the Lord returns. It won't just be the Lord himself. It's going to be his saints that took on that glorified body and got that everlasting life at his second coming, right? But notice what it says. It says, and Savior shall come up on Mount Zion and do what, Nate?
To judge the Mount of Esau.
So in order for us to judge the Mount of Esau, guess what? Esau has to be in the land. You understand? So you do have other nations that have other like Gentiles that happen to be in the land, from like we saw here, Carlson said you had some people imported from Europe. You know, we know if you do your history, research on that, you see that they came from Poland, they came from Russia, they came from a lot of European countries into the land. However, that does not negate the fact that you do have Esau in the land as well. And for the most part, that's how he's been able to hide. You know, he still has his tentacles in different things throughout the world, as far as entertainment, TV, sports, and all that type of stuff, by way of ownership, banks and things like that. But he's still in the land. And for the most part, people don't know that, because he's hidden in a sense. That's why it says in verse 6, how are the things of Esau searched out? How are his hidden things sought up? And then you got these men that have came together and agreed to bring them up to the border of Israel, so much so that they are continuing the lie to make the world believe that these are the people of God. But like we saw in verse 21, they have to be in the land, because like the Bible saying, the Savior shall come up on Mount Zion to judge the Mount of Esau, and the kingdom shall be the Lord. So if they're going to judge the Mount of Esau in Mount Zion, that means Esau going to be in the land. All right. So I just wanted to point that out. Let's see here.
Okay, but
and there is a big lie that goes out there. But no, let me finish this, because I keep hearing that Christians are really not treated well in Israel. That's a lie.
Well, there are lots of different. There are lots of different.
There were 34,000 Christians in Israel in 1940.
Okay, so yeah, like I told you, he just trying to get off the subject. So we're gonna fast forward to the next point. But he trying to get off the subject, and Tucker Carlson, he gonna do a good job of reining them back in. So let's just fast forward to the next segment right here. All right.
Work today is broken.
And on the notes, I think it says who has a right to the land, if I'm not mistaken. Let me see here. I can't believe he was able to get this interview.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I can't believe he was able to get it. But when you go back and see the very beginning of the interview, you will see how Tucker Carlson kind of explains all the hurdles he had to jump through to actually sit there and talk to him. They didn't want to,
Sound like they wanted to kill him.
Huh?
Sound like they wanted to kill him.
Yeah. Yeah. They took one of his guys hostage and stuff like that, and played around with his passport, asked the guy all types of questions. The guy that was with Tucker Carlson, and I know that to be somewhat true because, and I don't know if they just do that or like try to humiliate you, being from America going over there. But my father and my brother almost got stuck in Israel trying to get out, and they took my father's passport to the point where my brother had to tell my mother and his wife to go ahead and get on the plane. And my brother was saying he gonna go help my dad because they took the passport, took his jewelry, wouldn't give it back to him, kind of held his passport like hostage, and at the beginning of the video, Tucker Carlson was saying the same thing with, I think, his one of the guys that was with him. So, but I don't know, man. I don't know why they do that. But in this particular segment right here, they're referring to we're gonna get into the genealogy and how the genealogy is determined, right? And so notice what Mike Huckabee says, and we're gonna show you what it says according to the Bible, right? So give me 1 second. We're gonna play this again.
Messianic Jews who live in Israel.
Okay.
Who are here.
I'm aware of
It's
I'm
a
aware of
significant
that
number.
But you're not contesting what I'm saying because it's a very famous court case.
The right of return has to do with your mother, your grandmother. It has to do with family ties.
It's ethnic.
There's a lot of, sure, ethnicity is a big part of the right of return.
Great.
To make aliyah, to come to Israel, to live here.
Then if both of your parents are Jewish and you have an ethnic right to the land, you are one of Abram's descendants, but you convert to Christianity, how is it you don't have the right to return? I'm totally confused.
But I know a number of people who have returned as Christians, but have Jewish history.
Are
and
you
Jewish
saying that Jews who convert to Christianity have a legal right to return? Because I
know that they do. When you say, do they have a right to return? Do they prove?
It's a legal category, as in any government.
Which is by their family history, their grandmother, their mother, and there are many aspects of that.
I've read it. I think,
but I know that these are people who are Christian, and they came here, made aliyah. They had Jewish blood, Jewish history. They were Christian, Messianic, but they came here, and they were welcomed here.
Okay, so that's it. That's a good stopping point right there. So now let's see what the Bible says. How is the lineage of the child determined? Now, how just a question, Nate. How can it be determined by the seed of Abraham, right? If we now determine it by the mother and the grandmother.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like how can it be the descendants of Abraham and at the same time be, coming, it's based on maternal. That's not how it is. The way it's determined, the way the lineage is determined, it's determined by the man. Okay. Now it just seems like to me they want to do it like that because that way they can, get around the fact that these people in Israel today have no bloodline, no blood connection. You know what I'm saying? As far as now, don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. We have to make this clear. They may match the bloodline of Abraham. You know what I'm saying? And keep in mind, it's a twin brother to Jacob. So they could. I mean, they'd be better off just doing it like that. Even the Palestinians, right? They come out of Abraham. So they'd be better off just saying, we Abraham's seed, which is why they over there fighting over the land anyway, because they believe that the land belongs to them. You got Esau fighting over the land. You got Ishmael fighting over the land. And, you know, I can understand mentally why they're doing it, but they don't have to sit up there and say it's based on your mama, because it's not based on your mama. Esau actually comes out of the loins of Abraham, and he come out of Isaac, and Jacob does too, right? But at the same time, it wasn't given to neither one of them. It wasn't given to Ishmael, it wasn't given to Esau. It was given to Jacob. You know what I'm saying? However, if you test their bloodline, then you have to test our bloodline as well. And you're probably going to see a connection between the two of us. The difference between us and them is the signs going to sit on top of who the real Israelites are. See, the signs don't sit on top of them. The Bible don't say nothing about being burned in the furnace, you know. And I don't want to say it. I don't want to say the word because it's going to trigger something on YouTube. You know how it is. So we just revert back to the 6 million being put in the furnace. In other words, the Bible don't say nothing about that. You know what I'm saying? The Bible has curses that are laid out that fit on top of this people, and it's only one that line up with those signs that are placed in Deuteronomy and all throughout the Bible. So Nehemiah 7, let's see how this bloodline is determined. Nehemiah 7, and we're gonna pick this up at verse 62. And it's like they getting they chronologically getting some information on the children of Israel and stuff like that, and in the book of Nehemiah. And let's see, because keep in mind at this time, you know, they trying to come on back up to the land. So they trying to determine who's who has what particular job and so on and so forth. But they're gonna be able to determine based on how they're gonna be able to determine it on the bloodline. So notice what it says here. So pick this up at verse 58. Nehemiah 7 and verse 58. Go ahead, please.
The children of Jalah, the children of Darkon, the children of Giddel, the children of Shephatiah, the children of Hatil, the children of Pachereth, of Zebaim, the children of Ammon, all the Nethinims, and the children of Solomon's servants were 392.
Okay, so Solomon had some servants, right? It said all the Nethinims and the children of Solomon's servants were 392. What else it says? I say.
And these were they which went up also from Telmelah, Telharesha, Cherub, Adon, and Emer. But they could not show their father's house, nor their seed, whether they were of Israel.
Wait a minute. So what about the mom and the grandmama, Nate?
Don't say nothing about them.
Right. Don't say nothing about them, right? You know what I'm saying? Let's go look at another place. We're going to go to Hebrews chapter 7. But notice what it says. It says here, these were they which went up from Telmelah, Telharesha, Cherub, Adon, and Mar, but they could not show their father's house. They couldn't show what family they were from, y'all. That's why the father? Because the father is the one that determines what the child is. It's not done by the mother. It's not done maternally. It's not done by the grandmother. The father is the one that carried the seed. The bloodline, when a child, the bloodline is determined by the father. It's just like when you breeding dogs, right? You know, in this case right here, you know, people love pit bulls. And they always look at what line he come out of, like his daddy, you know what I'm saying? They don't really look at the mama. They may look at the mama, you know, she can give a good litter, but the daddy, he was a big boy, you know what I'm saying? They always determine the bloodline based on the father. Likewise, with us, the same exact thing. The Bible lets you know we're beasts, you know, but you can't go to Hebrews 7, but you can't have both of them. Now, you may pick up some genetics, you know, and some different attributes from the mother, but the bloodline is the father. So whatever the father is, that's what the child is. So in this case right here, when they sitting up here saying that it's done by the grandmother and the mother, that's not how it's done. Not according to the Bible. So Hebrews chapter 7, we're going to pick up one more thing here. We're going to pick this up at verse 9. Hebrews 7 and verse 9. All right, go ahead.
And as I may so say, Levi also, who received tithes, paid tithes in Abraham.
Okay, hold on. So notice what it says here. It says, as I may so say, Levi also who received tithes, right? Because we know Levi being the the tribe that performs the services of God, right? Well, and matter of fact, the 11 tribes will bring the tithe up for Levi. But notice what it says here. It says, as I may so say, Levi also, who received tithes. Not only did Levi receive the tithe, it says they paid tithe also, right? It said they paid tithes in what?
Abraham.
And Abraham. So what they mean they paid tithes in Abraham? It's going to tell you in the next verse. What it say? Go ahead.
For he was yet in the loins of his father when Melchizedek met him.
Oh, wait a minute. So it said, so it's letting us know that Levi paid tithes, like it says in verse 10, he paid tithes in Abraham. How did Levi pay tithes in Abraham? We know Levi came down the line after Abraham was dead, right? Abraham was dead. Levi came out of Jacob, one of the 12 tribes. So how did he pay tithe in Abraham? The next verse lets us know how. It says, for or because he was in the loins of his father when Melchizedek met him. Now, you know anything about the Bible, Abraham met Melchizedek, which is Jesus. Melchizedek is just a title. And under that title, under that umbrella, it has, different positions. Like, for example, Melchizedek, meaning King of Salem, priest of the Most High God. Somebody fits that particular bill, and that's Jesus, right? So when Abraham, showed up to meet Melchizedek, guess who was there? Levi. How? Because he was inside Abraham's body. He was in the loins of Abraham. It was just a matter of time before Abraham laid down with Sarah, and then he brought forth Isaac. And then by way of Isaac laying down with Rebekah, then guess what? They got Jacob and Esau, and then out of Jacob came 12 tribes. You understand? And then out of those 12 tribes, one of them being the tribe of Levi. But he wasn't in both of them. He couldn't be inside the loins of his mother and the loins of Abraham at the same time. It's either one or the other. This is how we know, without a doubt, whatever the father is, that's what the child is. And this is how it's determined. It's determined by the bloodline of the father, not the mother. All right. So let's just go a little bit further. Let's see here. We're going to move over to the moving borders. That's just a little segment right there. Just kind of showing you how he's going to say, it started off this way. Now it seems like you keep on adding on to it. But I want to point this out because, it's just a bunch of confusion. The Lord's going to sort it all out. Switch to Charity Mobile. And we have another one. I need to hook it up. This other page that we have. It's just so accessible. I don't want to mess it up. Okay, go ahead and get off, please. All right. Oh, Lord. Well, I'm going to just mute them while they do their talking. They didn't get no free plugs here.
You haven't defined who Israel is, so I really don't know.
It is the land they're living in now, the borders that they have.
The borders are moving. The borders have moved in the last year.
What do you mean the borders have moved?
They are the 1967 borders. I'm including, the
East
West
Jerusalem and Judea and Samaria.
What are the borders of Judea and Samaria?
Well, you basically take the Jordan River, and it's west of the Jordan River to the Mediterranean Sea, to the Lebanon border. And Israel did have control of the Sinai. They gave that to Egypt. They had control of it.
Right.
They gave it away in 1979 in the peace agreement.
But, okay. So whatever you call it, the land that was taken from Jordan in 1967, you call it Judea and Samaria. There's a significance to that I don't fully understand. I'm not against it.
It's the biblical
know what it's the biblical.
Terms. 80% of the Bible happened in Judea and Samaria.
But we've also established that the Bible gives Jews the right to occupy the land from the Nile to the Euphrates. So I'm very confused by why we've shrunk the land and why we're
Israel has shrunk the land They have made that decision. Okay. That's why they gave away Gaza. They gave away the Sinai.
Now's the part
They've
for
given
the
away
real
a lot of
question.
things.
Abram's descendants are the ones who have the right to have this land, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Why don't we do genetic testing on everybody in the land and find out who Abram's descendants are? It's really simple. We've cracked the human genome. We can do that. Why don't we do that? Would you be against doing that?
I have no idea what that would prove. I mean,
Really?
maybe it would be.
What do you mean? It would prove who Abram's descendants are and who has a right to live here and who doesn't, according to the theology that you yourself just explained. And so I'm very confused as to why we don't do that. If you believe the theology that you've just explained to me.
Would we do that all over the world?
Well,
and everybody
this is the only country in the world that you've said has this covenant with God, that this people have a moral and legal right to the land.
What about people who convert to Judaism? Would they have a right?
Wait a minute. Okay. Oh, so you heard that, Nate?
His suggestion?
Yeah. What about people who converted? Would they have a right? But it's supposed to belong to the bloodline, though, don't it?
Right.
So y'all see how
Said he moved the goalpost.
Move the goalpost, man. It's supposed to belong to the people with the bloodline, right? And that's that's what the world is doing. Like they said, they just move the goalpost. You know what I'm saying? They move the goalpost because, if you've been practicing this, you've been doing it forever. Now the land belongs to you. What about the physical people? Like there is a physical people that this belongs to. Matter of fact, what comes to mind is Romans 3 right quick. I think it's Romans 10. Might be Romans 10. Let me just see that right quick. Romans 10. Okay. No, I don't think it's that. I think it's, hold on. Is it Romans 9? Let's see. Either it might be 11. No, Romans 9. In verse 1, it says, I say the truth in Christ. I lie not. My conscience also bearing me witness in the Holy Ghost that I have great heaviness and continual sorrow in my heart. First, from Christ, for my brethren, my kinsmen, according to what, Nate? What does that say?
The flesh.
The flesh. So now Paul, his brothers were people who just converted to Judaism? Is that what it is? Because right after that, he says, who are what?
Israelites.
Israelites. To whom pertain what?
The adoption and the glory and the covenants and the giving of the law and the service of God and the promises.
Right. So, and the promises. So, and guess what was a part of that promise? The land. It don't say now you can convert it, and like the Bible talks about in Ephesians, the Commonwealth of Israel. But at the same time, we just can't negate the fact that there is a physical people here that are in the land. I mean, that are scattered throughout the world today that have a physical bloodline, like a bloodline that attaches them physically to the land. But at the end of the day, it don't matter anyway, because the Lord let us know in Jeremiah chapter 17 that he would discontinue our heritage. The way that we gonna know is based on this right here. Go to Deuteronomy 28. This is how we gonna know who are the children of Israel and who the land belongs to. Deuteronomy 28. See, this is what the world doesn't want us to find out, which is why they try to do everything they could to keep us from, waking up and turning back to the Bible, but it's too late. It's too late. Said if they convert to Judaism, then the land belongs to them. And some of them don't even have no bloodlines. It's just them converting. So he's asking him, Mike Huckabee is asking him, like, so we what about the ones that have converted? We just if they don't pass the test, the genetic test or genealogy test, then we're gonna kick them out. They kicking out Mexicans, ain't they? They getting them out of here. Kick them people out of the land. They ain't the real people. But we understand and we can think logically and know based on the word of God that the Lord is the one that's gonna settle all this when he returns, including the controversy over the land. because it's a holy land and neither of them have a right to it. But the Lord is going to settle that. But notice what it says in Deuteronomy 28, verse 45. What does that say, son?
Moreover, all these curses shall come upon thee, and shall pursue thee, and overtake thee till thou be destroyed, because thou hearkenest not unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to keep his commandments and his statutes which he commanded thee. And they shall be upon thee for a sign and for a wonder, and upon thy seed forever.
Okay, so that's all I wanted right there. But I just wanted to point out how we, God's chosen people, are going to be identified by the curses. He said in verse 45, he said, moreover, all these curses, all you got to do is go above to verse 15 and work your way down to 45. You know, everything that preceded that as far as curses are concerned, that's what he's talking about. Then, as he keep reading further down to verse 68, still referring to those curses, right? So he said, all these curses shall come upon thee, excuse me, and shall pursue thee and overtake thee till thou be destroyed, because thou hearken not unto the voice of the Lord thy God to do what?
Keep to keep his commandments and his I'm sorry.
No, you had it right.
To keep his commandments and his statutes which he commanded thee. And they shall be upon thee for a sign and for a wonder, and upon thy seed forever.
Okay, so notice what it said. It said, and they shall be upon thee. You're talking about the curses, right? He said, and they shall be upon thee for a sign and for a wonder, and upon thy seed forever. Look, we talking about as long as mankind is running the world on this side of the sun, these curses will be on top of these people that the Bible is talking about. God's chosen people. They're not going to have the power. They're not going to even have the wherewithal to know about getting together, gathering themselves together, and going back home. We couldn't even figure, we can't even get the money together to even buy a doggone boat, y'all. And not that we don't make enough money, but still, if we try to come together and buy a ship or some planes for us to go back home, they're going to sabotage it. All you gotta do is go back and read Nehemiah and all the different things they was doing. All the nations like, hey man, let us help y'all build. Like, nah, we don't need y'all help, man. Get out of here. So they went and told the king. They're like, man, hey, you better watch out for them guys, man. They're gonna go back, and rebuild that stuff, and they're gonna start tripping. They ain't gonna pay you like they should. They're gonna start, bucking the system. We talk about Black Wall Street. Took place in Tulsa, Oklahoma, thriving community. Even in Florida, thriving community. What happened? Gentile shut it down. So we have to rely on the Lord to bring us back and put it all together. And that's exactly what's going to happen. Like I said, we can't even, we couldn't do it if we wanted to, because the Lord is going to do exactly what his word is saying. He's going to gather us from all over the world and put us back in the land. It'll tell you that in Joel chapter 3 and other places as well, Deuteronomy 30. But this just goes to show that these people that's in the land today, these ain't the people. These ain't the people at all. So let's just move a little further. Let's go to our next segment. Let's see if we're done on this one first. A little bit more, about a minute.
Well, you've just said.
I mean,
that
there are
it's not
converts to Judaism, so
you just told
they
me
can make Aliyah. They may not have.
You've just
DNA.
told me that it doesn't matter. You told me moments ago, trying to keep track.
Okay.
That it doesn't matter whether or not you believe in God or whether or not you practice Torah Judaism or Rabbinic Judaism, which is something else that I don't even know I don't even know what that means. But it doesn't matter whether you're, quote, a religious Jew or not. What matters is that you are part of the Jewish people to whom God gave this land that extends from the Nile to the Euphrates. And
whoa.
Hey, that looks like a wig that he got on. When we come back on, y'all, look at it. Look like he got a hair hat on.
Believe that, wouldn't you want to know with a burning passion who those people are? And because of science, we can now know who those people are. So why aren't we finding out?
I guess you could propose a DNA test for everybody who comes here, everybody who lives here. But
I'm comfortable with secular nation states where none of this is done on the basis of blood. I'm uncomfortable with that. I'll just say that.
But there are people who may not have bloodlines, but who have converted to Judaism. Are they going to be able to live here? You're going to kick them out?
No.
By your standards, they can't live here
No,
because you just
never
told
said
me
no.
that
Wait a minute. So that's hypocritical, isn't it? Didn't we have some people that I think in Demona? We had some people from. If you guys go look up, if you go look up, if you Google it, now you might have to Google it for us if you can. Where
What's that?
they were telling Hebrew Israelites in Israel that they had a certain time to get out of there. And I think it was like 3 years ago, they were forcing the Israelites out of there. The black people, the black Americans that happened to move over to Israel, I think in Demona, they was kicking them out. So now Mike Huckabee is just saying, well, what about those that have converted? You know what I'm saying? But when we come over there, they want us out of there. Because see, we coming with the truth, even though it wasn't time for us to do it anyway. The Lord ain't, really behind that at all. But I just want to show you that that's hypocritical. Mike Huckabee like, well, what about those who've converted to Judaism? So what? I mean, if we're doing it by bloodline, they got to go. But see, it's good for them. It's good for them to do it. But when we do it, we racist and stuff like that. When actually we telling the truth.
I found some.
Just come back and look. You did?
With that, I'll just say that.
But there are people who.
You found something on it?
Mm-hmm.
Here, let's pull it up right quick. Hold on. Can you share it?
Yeah, this is just straight off of Google.
Okay. Yeah, see if you can share that. Just read it. Just read showing how they wanted them out of there.
You just bring it up.
You got it? Oh, okay.
Yeah, you got to bring it up on stage.
Okay. Okay, I need to remove the other media. Okay, hold on 1 second, y'all. I'm going to stop sharing that. We're going to come right back to it. Okay.
It says, in 2021 and 2023, Israeli authorities ordered dozens of members of the African Hebrew Israelite community based in Demona to leave the country, citing a lack of legal residency status. While many of the 3,000 member community have established status, some individuals face deportation orders after failing to formalize their residency, despite long-term residency and in some cases military service.
Okay, so that's good.
Okay.
No, you can go read it. You can read it.
The community consists of African Americans who immigrated from the United States to Israel starting in the late 1960s, believing they are descendants of the biblical tribe of Judah. In April 2021, the Interior Ministry ordered 46 families, approximately 51 individuals, to leave within 60 days. A subsequent wave in 2023 targeted about 130 individuals.
Okay, go ahead. The legal status in response.
The Ministry of Interior stated that the individuals targeted did not meet the criteria for residency, noting that many had lived in Israel without legal status for over 20 years. Community members have appealed these decisions, arguing that they have deeply integrated into society, with many working for local businesses or serving in the Israeli Defensive Forces.
Okay, so that's cool right there. So like I said, so now let's see what Mike Huckabee says. We're gonna play that one more time. Hold on. Let's just come back just a little bit. Let's see what he say.
Are, and because of science, we can now know who those people are. So why aren't we finding out?
I guess you could propose a DNA test for everybody who comes here, everybody who lives here. But
I'm comfortable with secular nation states where none of this is done on the basis of blood. I'm uncomfortable with that. I'll just say that.
But there are people who may not have bloodlines, but who have converted to Judaism. Are they going to be able to live here? Are you going to kick them out?
By your...
Yes.
They sure was kicking us out. right. But y'all see that, right? So they was kicking us out, right? But now he's saying, oh, so we're gonna kick them out. Yeah, they get to stay. But if it looks like us, You know what I'm saying? We come saying that we Jews, we got to go. Now we saw they had been there. Some people have been there 20 years. Matter of fact, they had even served in the Israeli Defense Forces. That's the IDF. That's the military. You know, but they don't treat everybody else like that. They treat us like that because they were over there saying that they were Israelites, and you know, don't want that truth getting out. Got a problem with that.
Standards, they can't live here
No,
because you just told me that they have a right to live here because God gave them the land because they're the descendants of Abram.
They're the descendants of Abraham. But if they're the spiritual descendants of Abraham and they've now decided that they're converting to Judaism, then do they have a right to live in Israel?
Well, there's a whole legal literature in Israel on that question, and
we don't mind them living in Israel. We're gonna go to the next segment. We don't mind them living in Israel. I'm not saying that we don't want other people in the land of Israel. Just saying that, you know, tell the truth about it. Like, who does it really belong to? That's what we're trying to get at, because, you know, looking at the article we just saw, and that was mainstream news, when our brothers and sisters who happen to be Hebrew Israelites went over there, they were trying to kick them out. And we just saw that. So nobody was concerned about, you know, their conversion and how they had got adjusted to life back then. But based on what he's saying, that's what they're concerned about. You know, that's hypocritical. They just move the goalposts. They set up things how they want to set up. But, you know, that's why it's obvious that the Lord will have to come and, you know, sort all this stuff out. All right, but we're gonna move on to the next segment. Then we have one more segment after this, and that will be it for this evening. So let's see here, 124. What is he talking about in the next segment, Nate? I think it's at 124. What are the notes next to that?
Bibi isn't from Israel.
Oh, okay. Bibi Netanyahu isn't from Israel. That's the next point that Tucker Carlson's about to bring up.
Historically, biblically, and that the Jewish people that represent, and I want to get back to this because you didn't let me finish a while ago, they represent 0.2% of the world's population. In the entirety of the world, there are about 16 million Jews total, and 8 million of them live here. The rest live mostly in New York or South Florida and a few other places.
Okay.
So this is a small population of people. They have connection to this land historically, biblically.
Do they?
Yes, they do.
If Bibi's family, we know they lived in Eastern Europe. There's no evidence they ever lived here. He's not religious.
But
in what sense?
How do we know that?
Do you have his family tree? No, we don't.
Do you?
He doesn't. So no one does. That's the point.
But
so how do we know that he has any connection to this land at all?
And if there has been a practice of Judaism and a connection to the language, the Bible, the land.
His ancestors didn't. He doesn't practice Judaism in any rigorous way. His ancestors didn't live here. They didn't speak the language, and there's no evidence they ever lived here. So on what basis does he have a right to be here?
Very much speaks the language. Well, he has fought for the land. His family has fought for the land.
Dodging a very obvious question, which is, where does this right come from? And the reason it's meaningful is because there are a lot of people.
Where does the right come from, y'all? Where does the right come from? Like, where does the right for Bibi Netanyahu come from? And, you know, Tucker Carlson, he went a little bit further into his lineage than I understood. I just, you know, I may have to do a little bit of digging to see, because he kind of looks like he might fit that bill as a so-called Jew. But, you know, if it's not the lineage, if it's not biblical, if it's not based on the Bible, then where does it come from? You know, and the thing about it is, it doesn't come from nowhere. The only way it come from is, you know, as far as spiritually is concerned, you know, all those individuals over there went into the land. They believe it belongs to them. You know, all this fighting they're doing and stuff like that to take more land, building the temple and stuff like that. They believe it belongs to them. But we're going to see real soon. But I just thought it funny how Tucker Carlson pointed it out. I'm like, wait, how does he belong here? I'm gonna just play about 30 more seconds of it, then we'll move to our last, fast forward to the last segment.
People in the territory that Israel controls today, particularly in the West Bank, who, through genetic testing, we can know their families have been here for thousands of years. We don't know whether they practiced Judaism, whether they were Samaritans, pre-Islam. We don't know that. A lot of them we know have been Christians for 2,000 years. They have less of a right to the land than someone whose ancestors, the only thing we know about them is they lived in Latvia or Poland. They're Eastern European. How does that work?
They're Jewish.
By what definition?
They're Jewish by their
how do we know that any connection
they're
to
Jewish
the Jews
by their
of the,
faith. They're
of the
Jewish
Bible?
by the connection to the language.
Hey, man. Hey, I don't know if this was planned or what, man, but them questions he hit them with, man. How?
They're Jewish. They're Jewish.
Right. How does that work? Man. Ooh, boy. That's crazy, man.
Jewish by the connection to the Torah.
But how do we know that Bibi, specifically Bibi's ancestors, ever lived here? How do we know that?
I'm not sure if I understand your question.
How do we know if the Prime Minister of Israel's ancestors ever lived?
Maybe I could ask you, how do we know they didn't? I mean,
well, it's on the basis of the claim that they did that all kinds of things happen. People are displaced. There's a money flow. I mean, it's a big question. A lot hangs on this. It's not some theoretical thing like, oh, you know, did my grandparents do this or do that? It's like, no, we have a right to be here because my ancestors were here. Okay, how do we know they were here?
Did y'all hear him say maybe they were Samaritans? Did you hear that, Nate?
Yes, I did hear that.
You caught that? Yeah, he's like, well, maybe they were Samaritans. And now we know in the Bible, according to John 4 and 2 Kings 17, we know it was Samaritans that actually, you know, people that got moved into Samaria once Israel got taken out of the land. And then guess what happened? Those people had been there for so long, so they started thinking that the land belongs to them, the customs and traditions of Israel, of our forefathers, belong to them. But Jesus told the Samaritan woman at the well, right? He told her, you worship, you know not what. We know we worship for salvation is of the Jew. But he had clearly showed a distinction between the Samaritans and the Jews, the real Jews, you know. But, you know, some truth came out of his mouth when he asked that question, though, when he said, how do we know they ain't Samaritans? So, but let's go to the last point right here. And this, so this last point, does any country that Europeans have a right to exclusively, is there any country that the Europeans have a right to exclusively? For example, is there a land mass that the Europeans have access to exclusively, just like the Jews have right to the land of Israel exclusively? And that's the next question on this right here. So let me just fast forward it. What's the time? Is it 127:40 or 129?
I think it's 27.
It's at the very bottom.
Yeah, 127:29.
Okay, 127:29. All right, cool. So I'll come to 16.
See what scholarships you may qualify for. Visit.
Let them go and get that over with. Yeah, then after this right here, I want to show you all something on Facebook.
Problem is, so many of my... Then you don't mind them having
Is there any country, let me ask you this bluntly, is there any country that European peoples have a right to exclusively?
I think they have attained their land through conquest. I mean, let's ask ourselves.
Have the Britons attained their land through conquest? No, they've always been there.
The Romans, the Greeks, we've had all these civilizations.
Let's speak. Well, you could certainly say that here. The Romans controlled this, as you know, and they expelled all the Jews
anymore.
From Jerusalem. Amen. I don't want them to control it.
Hope not.
I'm anti-Roman. Okay, we're on the same page.
Okay.
But my question is very simple. is there any European peoples that possesses the same right to their land that the Jews, including people whose ancestors...
Wait a minute, hold on. Did he say the Romans controlled this?
I think he was saying at one point in time they did.
Oh, okay.
Lived in Eastern Europe, possess here. We're on the same page.
Okay.
But my question is very simple. Is there any European peoples that possesses the same right to their land that the Jews, including people whose ancestors lived in Eastern Europe, possess here? The Britons, we know, the British people, the Scandinavian people, the Irish people, their ancestors have been there for thousands of years. That's provable through genetic testing. Do they have a right to their land exclusively?
Is anyone saying they don't?
Yes, of course. Yes. No one will say they will. And I'm asking you, do they have that right?
And I'm not sure what that question involves, because no one is trying to force them out of their land, of their homes. But here,
wait, hold on. Why won't you answer that question?
Because I just did.
Oh, so the Irish people have the same right to their land that the Jews have.
I don't know that they have a biblical connection.
Okay,
but I'm a Bible believer.
Okay,
so that is.
But it's also a principle, and that is, and you've said it 15 times.
Sometimes people have land because they were able to attain it through war. They were able to obtain it when it was challenged.
I understand that. There's all kinds of consequences, but we can't say that about the Irish.
The world borders change all the time.
Not actually, the borders of the island of England have not changed, nor the island of Ireland. Those are just two examples. So you've got the indigenous people there. Do they have a moral right to that as their homeland?
And I think they would probably say, yes, we do, because we have ancient history to it.
What do you think?
I've never thought about whether
now that I'm raising the question, and you've spent a lot of time thinking about the right of the Jewish people to their homeland, do the Irish have the same right to a homeland?
As long as they can defend it, and as long as they,
as long as they can defend it.
But Tucker,
blew my mind when
I'm telling you,
when I even caused a little.
Hold on. Now you just flipped back. You're the minister here.
Yeah, and I'm telling.
So when I heard that last night, as long as they can defend it, I was like, yeah, man. So that's the mentality with these Gentiles. You know what I'm saying? As long as we got the gun, we got the power. You know what I'm saying? As long as we got the weapon, we got the power. We can keep on pushing this lie. And what you gonna do about it? You know what I'm saying? But did y'all hear that? He was like, do they have a right to the land? As long as they can defend it, they got a right to it. So like we come over there and take it, and we got the weapons to stop you from coming in, shutting us down. It belonged to us. And that's what, so my mind just automatically just thought about the Israelis and the people that call themselves Jews. They got it right now. They got somebody on their side that's backing them, which are the Gentiles, which is why you have John Hagee preaching all that type of stuff, about them and being God's chosen people and stuff like that. And the world is backing them. And guess what? And they got the military power to support them as well. So the Lord is going to have to definitely bring that down. So that's it on that particular segment. We got one more article we need to look at, or some on Facebook. I just want to show y'all the mentality of these so-called Jews throughout the world. But before we do that, I just want you all to kind of let us know what you think about that. You can leave it in the chat. And I definitely, suggest you guys go back and watch this particular video. It is called Tucker Confronts Mike Huckabee on America's toxic relationship with Israel. And I stopped at around like the 1 minute 30 mark or something like that. I didn't listen to all of it. I just got what I thought would be beneficial for this evening. So let me show you something, guys. I want to pull something up right quick. And they just, if you don't mind, read this for us, if you don't mind, real quick.
Okay.
All right, this right here. And this is a Facebook post. This is a group called Advocates for Israel, right? And I was looking for the segment that talked about the mother genealogy is how the child is determined. So I was looking for that in the Google, and I saw this right here. It came up pertaining to DNA testing. So I clicked on it and I read it, and I thought it'd be, good to show you all so you could see the mindset of these so-called Jews around the world, how they feel like they're connected to you know, the sons of Jacob. All right, so you can start off reading it, Nate.
Now I have watched Tucker Carlson's interview with U.S. Ambassador Mike Huckabee. I have long wondered why Tucker is so negative about Israel and Jews. Now I think I have the answer. He is pissed off because we have the right of return, and he has done a DNA test and found out that he is not Jewish. He has no Jewish blood in his veins, and that makes him angry. He argues, how do we know that those who have returned to Eretz are really Jews? Mike explains this well by saying that they have lived in and with their religion, even though they have been divided all over the world. Every Jew during Passover has said next year in Jerusalem, even though they have been exiled more than 2,000 years ago.
Right. You see how they try to make it seem like it's them? So they're supposed to be coming back next year, you know what I'm saying? Next year for Passover. But go ahead.
Tucker says that Benjamin Netanyahu's family comes from Poland. How do we know that his ancestors are Jews? Mike replies that they have lived as Jews and have had Judaism as a religion for generations. Tucker doesn't think that's enough of an answer, but thinks that a DNA test should be done to see if it's true. What Tucker doesn't understand is that we Jews in the diaspora have been living with Israel in Jerusalem almost daily for over 2,000 years. I can tell you that my ancestors came from Kurland in Berlin, and I have done DNA tests that show I am Jewish, even though my ancestors haven't lived in Israel for over 2,000 years. So Tucker, get over your disappointment that you don't belong to the tribes, even if it's a disappointment for you.
And the sad thing about it is, they don't belong to the tribes either. Yeah, they don't belong to them either. So, but eventually, it's gonna come out. The Lord is going to make sure the whole world knows it. Nate, do you have any scriptures that you want to close out with?
Well, I think you kind of touched on them.
You got to give us a scripture. You got to give us a closing scripture. I'm gonna get one.
I think the biggest thing is that the only thing I was gonna read Deuteronomy 28 and was that 40, 49, 45.
Mm-hmm.
But
Okay.
I think the biggest thing that's undeniable is the curses that were put upon us. It wasn't like you're gonna get one or two curses, because that's what they try and do sometimes, is say, well, such and such went into slavery. At this point in time, does that make them the Israelites?
Right.
But as a whole, we're the only people that you can see all of those curses sit upon. And I think that's undeniable. I mean, out of all the slave trade, of course we know that's a big part of it. Out of all the slave trades in history, the single biggest slave trade is the transatlantic slave trade. And the only person that's going to restore us, I mean, they believe that the Messiah is not going to come, and this is in the Bible. They read, I think they call it the Tanakh. But the only person that's going to restore Israel out of that captivity is Jesus. He's the only one that's going to be able to do that. And that's not going to happen by the hands of any man. They believe that they're actively restoring Israel right now. And, that's just not, the only person that's going to do that is Jesus. So, and then, as a matter of fact, we'll just go to a staple scripture. We'll just go to Psalm 83, because even if they had some DNA supposedly showing that, hey, our lineage goes back, however many thousands of years, to show that, we come from Israel, so to speak, I couldn't even trust that, because like we see in Psalms 83 and 4, I'll just go ahead and read it real quick. It says,
I have it.
Okay. You can read verse.
Which one? Okay.
Verse
For lo thine enemies make a tumult, and they that hate thee have lifted up the head. They have taken crafty counsel against thy people and consulted against thy hidden ones. They
Right.
have said, come and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance.
Right. So they have come together as a collective to make sure that Israel's real heritage, or what the name of Israel truly is, nobody knows anymore. So even if they were to say and provide some type of proof, I can't even trust that.
Yeah.
You know, because we know what their objective is.
Right.
Can you read verse 5?
They have consulted together with one consent. They are confederate against thee. The tabernacles of Edom and the Ishmaelites, of Moab and the Hagarenes,
Right.
Gebal.
So it's gonna go on to name a bunch of the people who are, but it's just showing that all these nations have been against you to try and cut you off, to try and cut the name of Israel off from being in remembrance.
Right,
so
that's right.
I would just say to keep that in mind. You know, it's obvious. Even the Gentiles are seeing that something's not lining up here. You know, that's why Tucker Carlson was grilling him so hard. Like, you know,
Right.
why? And it's not just the case with Netanyahu. You just see, I watch a lot of debates and stuff. You know, and I've watched a few. I think there's a guy named Marquette, and he was saying that most of the Jews, or the people who claim to be Jews, either come from some type of European background, whether it be Spain, whether it be Germany, whether it be somewhere in Europe, you know. But so everybody's kind of seeing like y'all are claiming this, but it's not adding up. So
Yeah.
that's my take on it.
That's what's up, man. Well, praise God for that. Well, I just want to close it out with Isaiah chapter 11. Isaiah chapter 11. And, you know, like I say, I was praying, asking God to give us some, you know what I'm saying, to discuss. And it's just funny how this came up, you know, and in a few days, Black History Month, you know, will be over. And, you know, it's a good way for us to top this off. But it's always something. If you guys pay attention to like the news, Abraham's seed is always in the news, whether it be Ishmael by way of Arabs, Esau by way of fighting with Iran, or whether it's the Israelites by way of Jacob. You know, we in captivity, we hurting each other, we shooting each other down, and all that type of stuff. Or the Israelites on the corner making noise. If you ever pay that attention, it's like those three individuals right there come out of Abraham. We like the talk of the whole world. Like the talk of the whole world. But that son, though, that boy Jacob, man, them 12 tribes, man, they on the way, boy. And ain't nothing they can do to stop it. Nothing they can do to stop it. I thank God that we happen to be alive to see this, you know what I'm saying? And just a matter of time before the whole world gonna know it, you know. And like I can remember back in 2008, my son, you know, wife and kids, they can definitely attest to it, that it was hardly nobody that I knew. Now keep in mind, you did have Israel of God here. I was communicating with brother Marlon up in Chicago. Elijah was in Chicago, but here in Atlanta, I just thought I was by myself, you know. And to see where it is now, it's like, you know, even though some individuals are waking up on the wrong side of the bed, they are waking up. You know, I woke up on the wrong side of the bed as well. And it's just that I had to keep on going. I had to keep on searching until the Lord put me on the right path. You know what I'm saying? And that's to be expected when you waking up. Like I say all the time, got it from Brother Elijah, when you waking up from being in a sleep for so long. You know, you're not going to wake up and just have everything together. We're going to wake up and we kind of all over the place, right? You know, but the Lord is starting to, you know, fix things and bring it all back together. And when he get back, he gonna sum it all up, and he gonna go ahead and rectify all of it, you know. But it's just a blessing to actually be alive to see it. And it's also a blessing to be alive to see that we are in the news for good. It may seem like, you know, it's all bad because that's how the world looks at it. But when you've been a slave for so long, you know what I'm saying? Like I can I can go back. I can remember I talked to my grandfather, you know, like I told y'all in church, my grandfather told me that his friend got executed because he, you know, a white lady say he touched her. You know what I'm saying? So because of that, my grandparents kept my grandfather in the house, wouldn't let him come outside because that's what he grew up around. You know what I'm saying? That type of mentality back in the day. You know, so to see that and all the different things that we've been going through as a people, and now to see on the other end that we starting to wake up, man. You know, I can say that I just thank God for allowing me to see this before he returned or before we close our eyes, man, the rest before the Lord come back. I'm just happy that I was able to be able to experience the awakening. But Isaiah chapter 11, and we're going to look at verse 11, and this is what's going to happen when the Lord get back. You know, this is going to be the real gathering. It's not going to be anything that's going to be done by Mike Huckabee being an ambassador for the United States. Like some people say, we think he's more of an ambassador for Israel, the way he, you know, take up for them, you know, but it ain't got nothing to do with them as far as the gathering is concerned. Let's see what's going to happen when the Lord returns. So Isaiah 11, and pick this up at verse 11.
And it shall come to pass in that day that the Lord shall set his hand again the second time to recover the remnant of his people, which shall be left from Syria and from Egypt and from Pathos and from Cush and from Elam and from Shinar and from Hamath and from the islands of the sea.
That's right. So this is the Lord himself. Notice what he said. He said he's going to do it a second time, right? Why is he making mention to a second time? Because the first time it took place when he delivered our forefathers out of Egypt. You know, so once again, here it is, the seed of Jacob. We find ourselves in captivity. Once again, this time it's a worldwide captivity, and we are in need of deliverance once again. And so that's why it says here, and it shall come to pass in that day when the Lord return, at his second coming, that the Lord shall set his hand again the second time to do what?
Recover the remnant of his people.
Uh-huh.
Which shall be left from Assyria and from Egypt and from Pathros and from Cush and from Elam and from Shinar and from Hamath and from the islands of the sea.
That's right. And that's what we are. We scattered over here. We scattered among the Africans. We all over the world. We scattered. But when the Lord get back, he's going to gather us. And that's when the world is going to know who are the real children of Israel. So once again, we thank you all for tuning in. We hope that this has been a blessing for you all this evening. And we pray that you guys continue to enjoy your week. And next week, Lord willing, we'll see you guys here at the same place and the same time. Thank you. Y'all have a good night.